Well, it's World Chocolate Day, and did you know that there is a shop in Beattyville owned by a couple of chocolate makers?
This is probably the best holiday ever. There's
all in.
only a couple of chocolate makers in the state, in fact, making chocolate from bean to bar. One of them is the Chocolate Cafe, and we are so lucky to have the owner joining us today, Dustin Cornett. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Want to start off with this because you and your wife actually run the cafe. So tell us a little bit about when and how you got started in all this.
So we were living in Japan. My hometown is Beattyville.
Yeah.
So when we moved back to Beattyville, my wife fell in love with the area. So we kind of had to think, what are we going to do in Beattyville? So I stumbled across my grandma's chocolate recipes, and we worked on those and failed many times, and then finally got it to work.
Wow.
And we thought, this should be something we do. So that's where it started. Gourmet chocolate in Beattyville is a tough sell on its own, so my wife started baking, and we started doing some coffees as well, especially coffee. Since we roast cacao, we can roast coffee beans as well, like that. So we put kind of all that together into what we do now, and we call ourselves like a modern mom and pop shop. So
I love it.
Well, kind of explain what you guys serve, because I hear there is quite a variety of things.
So the bean to bar chocolate is one thing that you see here. So that is very important to me. Then we also have the specialty coffee drinks, the espressos, the cold brews, lattes, things like that. And then my wife's pastries, which every week she'll just throw something different out there, something amazing. Different cakes, different cheesecakes, cream horns, Danish eclairs. Just a whole bunch of sweets and goodness.
We've got so much video that we want you guys to see because I think describing it doesn't even do it justice. But help us understand, what is craft chocolate?
So to go into chocolate a bit, like this is a cacao pod. They grow on trees 20 degrees north and 20 degrees south of the equator. And then you pop these guys open, and there's beans inside. There's a whole process down at the farm.
These are the beans. Okay.
And they're all unique. So the difference between industrial chocolate and craft chocolate is industrial chocolate will take just the cheapest beans they can get and blend them for like some consistent chocolate. What we do, craft chocolate makers, is we highlight those origins. So for instance here, the Madagascar is very fruity and has some tartness to it, unlike any other chocolate that you're gonna taste. But if you want to get more familiar with a classic chocolate, something everybody's used to, Ghana, Ivory Coast, those origins are more fudgy. So it's basically highlighting what the farmers do. And craft chocolate, we also support sustainability. So we're paying higher prices for these beans so the farmers can just focus on the beans. They don't have to scrap another job or anything. They can focus on the beans and create the best cacao possible, and then we take that cacao and highlight it and just make super chocolate with it.
I mean, I thought I was like a chocolate connoisseur, but this is like, whoo, oh my gosh, this is eye-opening.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite part of maybe running the business?
I like making chocolate. I really do. I really do.
Never guessed.
Yeah. So when we first started, that was the part I couldn't do a whole lot of because I had to get this business up and running. And chocolate's the one thing that's harder to sell in Eastern Kentucky. But everybody's familiar with specialty coffee and then the pastries that my wife makes. So it was basically getting that going and creating our business, then allowing myself time to make chocolate and dive deeper into what craft chocolate can actually be.
Wow.
And I fell in love with that process from my grandma's recipes, like I mentioned before. She always used Hershey's chocolate, which she tells some really interesting stories about that. But back when she was doing it, I think the last time she did it, I was in elementary school, so it's been quite a while. And today, industrial chocolate has a different feeling.
Gotcha.
So I thought I could bring my own chocolate to her candies, and I decided to teach myself how to make chocolate. So that's where the passion started and kind of grew.
Like your own flair you're bringing to it.
Yeah, so I can work all day in the chocolate shop, and it's not work. It's just...
Well, we know there's a process, so can you kind of walk us through how you make the chocolate?
For sure. So I showed you the pods and everything beforehand. That's all done on the farms. So when I get them, I get dried beans. So like these are the beans.
Right, okay.
And I have to roast those beans. So I roast the beans for two reasons. One reason is to get rid of any bacteria on the bean. And the other reason is to kind of enhance the flavor. So different roast brings out different flavors, much like coffee. And so after we roast them, then have to crack them because there's a shell. So there's a shell on here, and we call it a husk. So we have to crack that, and then inside are the nibs. So that's the actual chocolate part.
Cool.
And then we'll take those nibs after we separate them from the husk and throw them into a machine like this, called a melanger, which is basically a whetstone grinder.
Wow.
And this is a baby one. I have a bigger one at the shop that can do up to 25 pounds. But
That's a lot of chocolate.
yeah, for the chocolate industry, it's not, but for craft chocolate and small, it's better than like 5 pounds or 8 pounds than where I started.
Yeah, for sure.
So I will leave it in this machine for about 3 days, continuously grinding. So it has to pulverize the cacao and then the sugar to get fine enough where you don't feel that grit on your tongue. And that takes a lot of time to do that. So after that process, I will let the chocolate rest a little bit, but you can take it from there and then temper it. Tempering chocolate is basically melting it at a certain temperature to give it that nice shine and that snap. And then after that, you can wrap it up and then put it in a beautiful box.
Just like
and
that.
then eat it on World Chocolate Day.
And then it ends like this.
This is so spectacular. I mean, really, truly fascinating. For folks that are wanting to come check you guys out, tell us where you're located.
So we're located in Beattyville. Yeah, it's a small town, you'll find us. But you can find us online. Follow us on our Facebook and Instagram to kind of keep up with what we're doing. Sometimes we have irregular schedules, but we always usually post what we're having that day. Like I said, my wife's pastries always change. We're doing more chocolate tasting events in the evenings, things like that, where I have 14 different bars we taste, and you can taste the difference of them and find the one perfect for you, and learn about how to make chocolate and fun stuff like that.
That is incredible. I bet it just smells phenomenal in there. So go check them out, the Chocolate Cafe. This has just been truly eye-opening.
It has. I had no idea that all this was into the process.
This is good, yeah. Good on you
it's a
guys
big
for doing
process.
all this. Thank you so much for coming by and explaining all this and how it works.
Thanks.
Yes.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Stick around. We've got to look at your headlines right after this.